Well, thank you. So we're getting down to the brass tacks of how do we work together to really continue building the community. So we're going to talk about academic partnerships now, and I'm just going to mention that the certificate that was mentioned earlier in the day includes a number of colleges, and Mercy and Westchester Community College are very involved. You're going to be hearing about other things that they're doing, and Carla's the chair of that program. So.
Okay, so I'm not going to touch the slides. I'll move that out of the way. So it's a pleasure to be here, and it's great to see so many stalwarts. When you speak after lunch, after break, and they're still, and before drinks, I guess I stand between us and drinks, so, you know, that's a tough place to be. So it's great to still see so many of you that are so passionate and share a commitment to making Westchester into a biotech hub on so many different levels. Academic partnerships, in many ways, are key to the physical build-out and the that we just heard from the last panel that Michael was so graciously chaired. And we need to have people, and those people need to be educated. And those partnerships can start from, as I alluded to earlier and as other speakers have mentioned, from the pre-college world to the community college world, to the four-year college world, to the research universities, to the graduate and professional education spheres. And in many senses, we have an educational ecosystem here that is unparalleled, but siloed. Very, very siloed. I mean, we have the wherewithal to do this. We have some of the best, I would argue, if you look at US News and other rankings of, you know, best high schools in the country, we have the talent. We have to figure out how to marshal our resources and get beyond our institutional boundaries to figure out how to work together to exploit our talent. And so academic partnerships can take on sort of two different roles. And in putting together this panel, part of what the vision was to have our panelists reflect on two pieces. One is the institution-to-institution partnerships. So how does a community college like WCC, for example, work with four-year colleges? And how do four-year colleges reciprocally work with community colleges? And you can think about that at all different levels. How do the four-year colleges and community colleges work with the pre-college world and vice versa? How do the four-year colleges that don't have as much in graduate offerings work with the graduate and professional schools that are in the area? And so you can see all of those reciprocal relationships. So there's one thing to think about the academic to academic type of partnership. There's a second type of academic partnership, however, that I also want us to think about a little bit today, and that's the idea of how does academia, in all of its spheres, work with industry? And how does it work with industry at all different levels of development, from our really small companies to some of our really large companies that are in the area? And so we have a lot of the pieces, but we are somewhat disjointed. We're not really connected yet. And so this is really an opportunity to begin to open the dialogue around a lot of these kinds of issues. And that's the spirit in which this session sort of came to be. I think, is that fair, Joanne? Michael? Yes. That's fair? Okay. So what I'd like to do is first welcome Renee. I'm going to get this correct. Renee Haskew-Layton, who is an assistant, what? I succeeded. Who is an assistant professor and program head of biology at Mercy College, to tell us a little bit about her work at Mercy and some of her collaborative undertakings thus far. So Renee.
Okay. All right. So I am, ooh, what happened? Okay. I'm a neuroscientist who's transitioned into teaching over the last maybe 4 or 5 years. So I'm used to being in a room where we teach very long classes at Mercy sometimes, and I know what it's like at the end of the day. So usually I kind of, get people up to stretch or whatnot, so feel free, take a stretch. Don't get offended. But really I want to talk a little bit about Mercy very quickly, just to give you an idea if you're not familiar with our college. So we have 4 campuses. Our Westchester campus is Dobbs Ferry. We also have a campus up in Yorktown Heights. But our sciences are primarily located at our Dobbs Ferry and Bronx campus. We have an initiative right now where we're expanding our Manhattan campus, but that's going to be primarily more for the business majors. So we really have a goal to promote diversity in the sciences at Mercy College. So you can see I have a little pie graph there of our biology program. Fall 2018, you could see that we're a very diverse group. We are a federally designated Hispanic Serving Institute. We are very proud of that. We're very proud that we bring students locally from Westchester and also from the boroughs in the city. We have a lot of students from the Bronx, from Queens. And I don't know how much of the audience is familiar with the sort of the dropout in the science pipeline, but when you're looking at underrepresented populations, underrepresented minority students, they will enter science majors at the same degree as other students, as white students, but as you go up that academic pipeline, you'll see a great drop-off in diversity. So by the time you get to graduate programs, academic positions, very few underrepresented minority students are proportionately staying. So we really have a lot of effort that we dedicate to really making students who are first-generation students really feel comfortable in the sciences. So most of our students come into the science programs, they want to be physicians, and that's fine, we support that, but we also want to introduce students to more avenues, and we are getting more and more students involved in research. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about our academic partnerships. So I was trying to think of how to graphically display this, and I thought, of course, okay, well, Mercy College will just be the star in the center. That's what we'll do. We actually have a lot of grant funding, which is great, that supports a lot of these partnerships. I'm going to start off with a more non-traditional partnership that we most recently have started. Can you guys hear me if I just stand over here? So we recently got a grant from the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, where we're actually now partnering with postdoctoral fellows in the region to provide them with training. Sorry, I'm very nice to standing one place. Right. That's okay. Okay. So we have a lot of postdoctoral fellows, even right here in Westchester County. So I myself did my postdoc at Burke Neurological Institute. They're an academic affiliate with Cornell. So I was in White Plains for a number of years doing research as a neuroscientist, and New York Medical College as well. And so we try to recruit primarily from the Westchester region first and New York City as well to get postdoctoral fellows who are interested in transitioning to an academic career to have them receive training in what we call inclusive and culturally relevant pedagogies, or how can you teach a classroom to make everyone in the class feel included, feel a part of the scientific community. And so that's an initiative. We're going to start that in the fall. We are interviewing candidates for that right now. So that's sort of a more unusual collaboration. We also have a partnership with Westchester Community College. This is funded through the Department of Education. One of our students who participated with us last year, Stephanie, give you a little shout out. She's here today. It's so nice to see Stephanie. Primarily, we have a collaborative relationship where Mercy faculty and WCC faculty act as research mentors, and we have the 2 groups of students from both campuses work together on research projects. Stephanie, was it a good experience? Great, okay. You can talk to Stephanie about it later. We have partnerships with high schools in the area. We have a Center for STEM Education, and also our Department of Education grant supports this as well. So we have students from Yonkers high schools, from Ossining, that will come to our campus for various programs. And then we also have partnerships through a National Science Foundation collaborative grant, where we share our expertise with other colleges, Coker College and Ferrum College, they're in North Carolina and in Virginia. College of St. Elizabeth is in New Jersey. And I'm thinking here, why not partner with more colleges in Westchester, of course. But this type of a collaboration, so we have an expertise in course-based undergraduate research experience. So we share our expertise with these colleges, and in return, we receive training on things like peer mentoring and faculty mentoring. So a lot of partnerships that we have, what I would have loved to have drawn was maybe an additional arrow showing some type of partnership with maybe a biotech company to maybe have something a little bit more established for our students to have a more structured pipeline for that. So I want to maybe hand the mic over for a minute before we sit down and have a more panel discussion.
Actually, why don't you keep that and I'll use the podium.
Oh, great.
I love having someone I can call and come and
So that was awesome. All right, so we need to get Gelaine's slides up. So our second presenter in this panel is Jillian Williams, who's the Director of Career Services at Westchester Community College. And her vantage point is a unique one in that she's really looking at the academic to academic and academic to industry partnerships on both sides.
Thank you. Oh, it didn't show up. How come it's not showing up? There you go. Oh, okay. So good afternoon. I'm Jillian Williams, Coordinator of Career Services, and I was asked to talk about what I do, first of all, and then go into some of our partnerships. So that's what I'm going to do. Sorry, I don't have pictures for the gentleman back there. Okay, so as most institutions have career services offices, we're the office that I like to say is the one that does the connecting. So we help the students to connect their educational experience to the world of work. We support the student in developing career management skills and employability skills so that they're competitive in this global work environment that we have. We facilitate connections through collaborative efforts between faculty, students, alumni, and employer partners. And I'll also add that we host an annual Spring 2019 Career Expo, which is one of our major recruiting events that's going to happen on Wednesday, April the 17th, from 10:30 to 2, just so you know. So anybody interested, feel free to speak with me afterwards. So, industry partners, okay, we have a program called Bright Futures, and it is a partnership with Con Edison. Actually, we were sharing that with a couple of gentlemen at the lunch table about that. But anyway, it's designed to prepare students for careers in the energy industry and related fields. Basically, they partner with the School of Math, Science, and Engineering faculty to provide programming that enhances and enriches the students' knowledge and understanding of the industry and potential opportunities. In fact, last week they had a program, sponsored a program, and had some industry partners from Con Edison at the event. They had about 80 participants, including the students and the faculty and staff that attended, and it was a most enjoyable and informative event. So an academic partnership, as Renee shared a little bit on her slide, we do have the Mercy College STEM grant, and this partnership is for the Hispanic and economically challenged undergraduates to complete their bachelor's degree within 6 years. And here is a list of the degree programs. So any one of the disciplines that are listed there, and you'll also notice the cybersecurity at the bottom, as well as mathematics, computer science. Then we had a partnership with the Center for Applied Learning and Career Education. I am the co-leader of the Center for Applied Learning and Career Education, so Career Services collaborates with the academic side of the house, and in fall of 2018, we had an initiative of the Center for Applied Learning and Career Education with the Division of School of Health Careers and the Division of Workforce Development and Community Education. And essentially, we had a unique cohort learning community at our Ossining Extension Center, which is the extension center for us that kind of houses our health programs through our workforce development side of the house. So students who were new and interested in pursuing health careers had a curriculum-based focused program, and it gave them an opportunity to kind of get to know more about health career possibilities. And it was a great opportunity for the students. It was a piloted program. We had about 18 to 20 participants, and we plan to offer the session again in the fall of 2019. So we're excited about that. Already in the process of enrolling for that. And generally speaking, applied learning partnerships, our students in general, and certainly our liberal arts, math, and science students, are always interested in opportunities to speak with industry professionals, to shadow a professional or volunteer for a day, participate in summer experiences or internships that provide hands-on opportunities that will connect a student's theory with practice, and certainly to obtain part-time and full-time employment opportunities. I often hear, especially the liberal arts, math, and science students who are not in maybe the applied science degree programs that already have built-in experiential or field ed or practicum opportunities, wanting or desiring an opportunity to have maybe a lab experience or be exposed to that particular environment, even at this level. So this would certainly be an opportunity for those in the biotech field that have opportunities to consider collaborating with us to support those students who have interest in that area. Thank you. Did I have one more slide? Oh, so I have, partnerships and collaborations, right, are a win-win for everyone, especially our students, certainly, because that's why we're here. We're a student-centered institution, as Dr. Miles said this morning. And we continue to be a work in progress. So that's why we're here. Thank you for the opportunity. Okay.
So I guess I'll kick us off, but while I'm asking the first question, please think of questions for these two wonderful panelists today. And I think the place that I'd like to really have us start is to think about a comment that has been made from a couple of people in the audience to me today. It's a comment I alluded to earlier this morning as well. And that is, it's great that we, as speaking on behalf of our institutions, are building these partnerships. But how do we engage students? How do we make them aware of the diversity of career paths, that structural engineering is part of life science, that finance and accounting and law are part of the life science industry, that it's not just medicine, it's not just health sciences, that there's a place for research. Students don't know what this means. And so from your vantage points, how do we do that? Because that's what's going to build our workforce here in Westchester.
Well, I think you mentioned this morning in your when you were sharing about the opportunities that you were hoping for in your passion and direction. So I do think that we have started some of that conversation in partnership with the high school students and programs. I did not mention our high school programs because I think one of my colleagues is coming along in the next session, and so I was going to allow her to kind of talk about those. But I think it's critical that the career exploration piece is starting early on, and that the community colleges as well as the four-year institutions continue to be proactive and trying to connect with the high schoolers so that the students are starting earlier with the career development piece as opposed to waiting until they get to us to do that. I also have the benefit of being on the academic advising side and counseling, and so I can tell you that many students, when they come, are undecided about their career path, and part of the reason for that is because they haven't had conversations and exposure early on. And so that's just one thought that we've started it, but I think we need to continue to do that more. And we're also having conversations about the pathways too.
Renee?
Yeah, so I agree. Early exposure is definitely key. I have been at Mercy about 4 years, long enough to have enough seniors come to me talking about medical school as being the only thing that they wanted to do, and having to have a tough conversation that, well, it's very competitive, and is that really what you want to do? And then senior year is really not the time to be having those conversations. It really needs to be freshman year, high school preferably. And so I think about this a lot. And at Mercy College, most of our students work, and so just having speakers come in from different careers to talk really wasn't working because it's hard for them to fit that in when you also have a job and you're going to school full time. I finally just built it into our curriculum. I was talking a little bit about at lunch. We have this new course. It's called the Pathways course. The faculty at Mercy, the science faculty, we're scientists, so the students have exposure to that, but we bring in our colleagues to speak about that. But then I did also want to have them exposed to careers in financial consulting, patent law. I built this course around also ethics in science. So we did an analysis of Theranos. Everyone knows Theranos. I had the students read. I had the students read the book Bad Blood. If you haven't read it, I recommend it. And we went through, all of the different aspects of the ethical dilemmas in this, and how the people who were part of this board didn't have the scientific background. What's the value of having a scientific background? And then who are all the key players, the patent lawyers, everybody who had science backgrounds that you wouldn't traditionally think of that. So it's kind of an experiment that I'm trying. Freshman year, they're doing this now. Every semester, I'll probably come up with a new theme, but some way where it's not, definitely career speakers were a part of that. They came in to talk, but I also wanted to give it sort of a broader application to see how all of these different professions actually worked together, and sometimes where it could break down.
Okay, questions?
Hi, thanks. I'm Carrie Villani. I work with Rick at Lyra. I'm the marketing director, though I'm not an engineer. But I was really excited to see a lot of brilliant women today. I happened to meet Joanne at an event in the city for professional women in construction. And it's great to see there's a lot of brilliant women in this industry. Can you address how your percentage of students are women, and how we can keep them in the field, in the engineering field, which is part of the STEM industry? We have less women in leadership going for every level of seniority. It's still a big problem. Parity is, we're far from it, and most leadership positions are still male. So how can we maybe work together on the corporate side, on the academic side, to keep women in the industry?
So, yes, the answer is yes, right?
Yeah, the answer is yes, and I know there have been some conversations, at least at our institution, about trying to encourage women to major in those areas that traditionally have been more males, as well as men, the males in areas that have traditionally been more women. So there are conversations about that, and that we are actively trying to recruit for that. Additionally, I'm reminded that the cybersecurity program, and I apologize because I cannot remember the name of it, but there is a women's club, right, for the cybersecurity, and they did start that, I think, last semester, the end of last semester. They were trying to get their whatever the certification is for them to be called a club on campus. And so I know that is one thing that we have done, but there's lots of conversations about it, especially since we just celebrated Women's History Month.
So I'm come from the life sciences background, and in biology, the trend is, in engineering, yes, you still are very male-dominated in computer science as well. Just to let everyone know, in biology, we have seen a shift where it doesn't seem to be as much of an issue. In my biology classes, actually, there's more women than men right now. But what I could speak to about that is, in our case, as I mentioned, we have a goal to promote diversity in the sciences. And so in terms of what we've been exploring is more a personalized learning approach. And so students who are typically underrepresented in a field, they really need to have a sense of belonging even in the classroom. So you might think of sense of belonging as a scientist, but even when you collect the data, you find that students feel that they can't approach their professors, and that could be hard. Some faculty might be very approachable, some might not be. It would be great if you had more female role models, but if that's not the case, what we're doing is we're actually having faculty go through training to sort of learn how to better relate with the students that they have in their classroom. So that could be another approach. Until you had more women in the leadership positions, the people who are the leaders in the field need to make everybody in that field feel comfortable and welcomed.
I'll just share a couple comments. So I've been coming to participating in programs like this for many years, and if you look at it, you can tell by how many people are in the bathroom during the breaks, right? That it used to be there was no competition for the ladies, right? Well, that's changed a little bit, and just even looking at this room today, it would be, it would have been 10 women at most in many situations. I also mentioned our Young Investigators program, which really got started to help the sort of postdoc era through age 40, the first 15 years of a career, because as hard as it is to get through everything you guys are doing, it's even harder to remain a scientist. But we're finding that a lot of those things, the skills we're working on, like are you an inventor, are you an entrepreneur, and how to communicate your science and so on, are valuable to anyone. And that we really think that those things are applicable earlier and earlier as well. So that's another option for collaboration and bringing in the women that are in the field. I'm always concerned that anybody who might be the first or second of their description, female, et cetera, might feel like tokens. But you know what? We need to ask those people to show up so everybody can meet them and be introduced and to be able to connect. But these programs sound great.
Someone always has to be first.
That's right. That's right. Anybody else have a question?
So I actually don't have a question. I just wanted to share some ideas on the topic that was a question ago, which was about how to expose students to different careers. So one thing is that they're doing this in Connecticut. I wish we were doing it here, but I think these calls are open. I get this email periodically from the organization called BioCT, and they're running a series of call-in webinars called A Day in the Life of. And the one they had last week was a day in the life of a government affairs employee, and the person who spoke, I think, was from Beringer Ingelheim. But they've had others. And so that could be something that you might want your students to dial into. I don't think you have to be from anywhere or any particular age. So it's maybe you could even dial in yourself and record it and let your students listen to it, at some more convenient time. And the other thing I'll just mention, and every school is different and every student body is different, but my daughter, who's a sophomore in college, was invited, had to apply to be chosen to go on what they call the career trek over January break this particular year. And I know you mentioned your students are working full-time and going to school, and it's a lot, but maybe in a period when school is on its break. So what she went on was a 3-day excursion where she and the whole group were toured from location to location where so she's studying biology, people who are in the biology and environmental studies field in very varied arenas that most of the students had no idea were possible, spoke about their work and about their own path, how they got there. So someone was in conservation law, and someone else was, I don't even know all the things, but just some ideas of what other organizations are doing, what other institutions are doing. You might be able to organize something like that when the students are on break, if time, is so difficult during the semester. I'm not telling you how to do your job, I'm just offering some suggestions that I know about.
I'd just like to add that for the community college, we have to keep in mind that we're a commuter institution, and a lot of our students that come, they have employment. And so for them to have opportunities, it really needs to happen in the classroom. It needs to be embedded into the program, because they don't always have the time to come during common hour or in the evening because they have other things going on, and they want to be able to come and do it at a time that is convenient for them. And so we have to keep that in mind when we're making changes and decisions about how to provide those opportunities. We need to keep that in mind because it is needed, and depending on where the student went to school, they may have had some career development or they may not have. And we also have the adult population, the non-traditional student, who comes to us after they raise their families and they come back to school, and we need to be able to accommodate them as well. Thank you.
Well, we're running out of time, so I will say just one last final comment, and that is that we need to think about this question of exposure, and we need to think about how we market what we do to communities that, and that communities meaning women, underrepresented minorities, economically disadvantaged, educationally disadvantaged. We have all of those within our county borders, and we really need to think about how we pitch and message the opportunities within the life sciences to all of these communities so that we build the talent pipeline that we need to support the economic growth that we seek here. I think that's really crucial. And it's a component that as we think about building out physical space, that we think about building out the talent space as well. And so I know Joanne and Michael get sick and tired of hearing me sort of pound the drum on saying the educational piece is a really important one. But thinking about how we can provide those, sort of job visioning, if you will. They're not really shadowing experiences, but job exploration, career exploration types of opportunities for students in ways that are approachable for them and fit into their lifestyles. Maybe it is putting it all online because that's where people are, but making it available and trying to figure out ways to engage students in that exploration early and often, I think is important. So I hope you'll join me in thanking Renee and Gelaine for sharing their insights with us this afternoon.